Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. Today I'd like to give you a bit of an overview on my current gaming setup, as well as providing you with some insight on how I choose my consoles and games. And hopefully this will give you some useful tips as well. Now, from a collector's perspective, my setup is going to seem rather unimpressive. While I do have a fairly large selection of games and more than a handful of systems, you should know that I do not consider myself a collector. And despite the AFK moniker, I actually do a lot of my gaming on PC. For most people, I think the most important things to consider is what kind of value am I looking for in a gaming setup? What kind of budget should I stick to? When I think about a purchase, I ask myself, how can I make the most of it? I want to make sure that I get the most bang for the buck so that I can hopefully get many years of enjoyment out of a system. I'd like to start on the topic of physical media versus digital. You've probably seen a lot of YouTubers who collect hardware and big box games, but I personally feel that digital distribution has more value overall. I'm not saying that to slam game collectors. In fact, I personally enjoy watching their channels. After all, collecting in itself is a hobby. Although, I'm sure everyone can agree that it's not practical for the average consumer. At the time of recording this, I actually only have one PC game on DVD. Honestly, I keep it around because it was a gift, and it looks cool with the rest of my DVD collection. I used to have more games on DVD and CD, including a few big boxes, but as time went by and I moved from place to place, most of those were lost. Fortunately, there isn't a single one that I don't have a digital license for now. As long as you have an internet connection, digital collections on PC are simply more convenient and efficient. The only exceptions are when it comes to certain older consoles and a handful of PC games that are no longer distributed due to licensing issues. That said, most of my games on physical media are for consoles. At one point I did ask myself about the longevity of digital platforms and what would happen if the internet ever exploded. 1,000 purchased games suddenly go up in smoke. Well, if you look at the success of Steam, Good Old Games, and their parent companies, even if they go out of business, there really is no fear in the servers going offline anytime soon. Steam has responded previously that they've already taken measures to keep their servers online in the event of a company shutdown. And if something catastrophic happens across the whole of the internet, I'm pretty sure that gaming is going to be the least of my concerns. Even when you consider consoles, remember that Nintendo released the Wii in 2006. The Wii shop remained active for purchases until 2019, and even now, in 2021, you can still download any WiiWare games that you purchased, and Nintendo hasn't announced any dates yet for shutting down the servers altogether. Although, you'll probably want to make some backups just in case. Now, I'm sure you're all aware of the war between console and PC. Let's be honest, when it comes to it, there really is no right or wrong. Despite any arguments you see online, each has its own merits and flaws. The real fact is, you'll most likely prefer whichever you've invested the most into, and for me, that happens to be PC. I love consoles, especially classic systems and portables, but when I look at modern consoles and what games are available, I see very little that I can't play on a computer. Of course, if I had put the money into a console first and purchased as many games there, I would see things from the opposite side of the scale. Like I said, it's mostly a matter of how you make your investments. You have to expect that there are going to be certain games and features that one system will have that the others don't. Console companies continue to release newer systems, computers need upgraded graphics cards to keep up with higher-end games, etc., etc. These are just some of the risks we take when we make a decision of what to buy. There are also times when a company goes off the path and creates something unique, something that changes the standard of how games are played. Yeah, I'm talking about you, Nintendo. Something as simple as adding motion controls or dual screens adds value to a system because many of the games that are developed for it will utilize that unique feature. Of course, even that only works if those games are of value to you. For example, I've been holding back on a Switch. Again, this is a system where a large number of the available games can be played on PC. I know that it has some great exclusive games and a lot of people enjoy it as a portable console, but there just isn't enough for it to maintain a lasting value to me. It's close, but not quite there. Now, once Metroid Prime 4 is released, I'll be jumping on the Switch train with speed. But my point in mentioning that is to show that I don't want to invest in something that will be used for a short time, only to collect dust in a corner after a while. So what do I currently use? Let's have a look. My computer rig at the time of this recording is running on an Intel i9 with an RTX 2080 Ti GPU, and attached to that I have a first generation Vive VR setup along with Valve's Index controllers. In addition, I have a Thrustmaster T-Flight stick and the Racing Wheel Apex from Hori. They aren't top of the line, but they definitely do the job in terms of simulation games, especially in VR. I have a Wii, which is great for playing GameCube and a variety of virtual console titles. These days, you can get much better graphics using emulation on a computer, but there are still some games that just play better on the real system. For instance, Skyward Sword looks amazing in higher resolutions, but the motion controls can be extremely frustrating when playing it on an emulator. Not to mention, there are still just a few games that simply don't emulate properly yet. The Wii is still a very versatile system, especially if you're into modding. It had a great variety of games of many different genres, which only got better with the inclusion of GameCube compatibility. For that reason, the Wii is still one of my favorite go-tos for gaming on the couch. I have a 3DS XL and a DSi. The DSi was my first eBay pickup, and I chose this one for a very specific reason. I happened to be on a Legend of Zelda binge, and unfortunately the eShop had already shut down. This one happened to have 4 swords already installed on it, so I couldn't resist. And while the 3DS is fully capable of playing DS games, I still keep the DSi because it's so portable and easy to carry around. Now, I came in late to the DS party, and I was very leery of this 3DS 3D screen gimmick. And now that I've spent a fair amount of time with it, I still think it's a gimmick, albeit a very cool one. I don't always have it active because it can be a little buggy, and I've seen a few games run at noticeably slower frame rates while it's on. I also feel like the screen quality could have been a lot more crisp without this feature. The picture just always seems a little blurry. I haven't seen the screen on the 2DS yet, so maybe the picture is cleaner with that. If any of you have one, I'd love to hear your experience in the comments. The next portable that I use frequently is the PlayStation Vita, which not only has a fantastic selection of games, but it's also great for playing PSP and PS1. This thing is honestly amazing in terms of screen quality and graphics. It's an absolute shame that Sony dropped the ball with it. I've seen a lot of back and forth on which is better between a PSP and a Vita. Honestly, the Vita runs everything great, and I have no regrets about getting one. Some time back, I picked up a GPD XD, which is pretty good for running Android games, but probably not so much for more recent graphics-heavy titles. If you're not familiar, the GPD XD was released back in 2015 as a portable emulation console running on the Android operating system. It received better support and features than many systems like it, but even that was short-lived and ultimately gained better support through community-developed firmware. The built-in controller is awesome. The last game I installed on it was the Android release of Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which ran great with the XD's built-in controller. I really like using the XD with emulators, and I've had some good experiences getting it to run a number of classic consoles, PS1 and PSP titles. Stepping back away from handhelds, I have a PS1 that doesn't get much use anymore, and I suppose I'm keeping it in wistful hope that I'll find a way to use the gun cons again. The original PlayStation had some really cool light gun games like Time Crisis, Crypt Killer, and my favorite, Elemental Gearbolt. Unfortunately, light gun controllers don't work with modern television screens. The PlayStation also had some really cool titles like Monster Rancher, which let you insert a random CD and then creates a monster for you based on the CD metadata. And finally, my most recent addition is the Google Stadia controller with Chromecast. I used this to play Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and I was actually fairly impressed with how well it ran. For the most part, everything was buttery smooth at 1080p with very little lag. Although it's not without bugs, and I'm not fond of the requirement of a constant online connection. There were a few times that the game crashed and I had to wait 15 minutes for the server to reset before I could get back in. The controller also takes a long time to charge, so if you forget to do that overnight, you may not get much time with it the next day. That said, this seems to be a fairly decent option for someone who doesn't want to dish out a lot of money for a next-gen console or a gaming PC. Now, it's unfortunate that earlier this month, Google made the decision to shut down all of its Stadia game production studios. And this is a little unnerving to me, considering I just released my review of Journey to the Savage Planet by Typhoon Studios, a developer that was acquired and has now been dissolved by this action. What this means for the future of Stadia is unclear. Although, as I mentioned with other digital platforms, even if Google stopped offering Stadia services, they would still have to consider a means for players to continue to have access to whatever games they'd purchased, or otherwise face massive backlash. With increasing interest in cloud gaming from other competitors, hopefully Google takes the challenge to expand their stake in it. That said, I do hope the best for all the developers who got shafted by this decision. And now, let us ease our thoughts with this relaxing display of random controllers. Do you think it's excessive? Too minimal? Outdated? I personally find this setup to be efficient and well-rounded. Each part provides value to how I play. And I think that's really the best advice that I could give someone who wants to start or expand their gaming collection. Think about what kind of amusement value you're looking for and let that guide your investment. So, how do you play? What are your favorite consoles and why? Be sure to let me know in the comments. That's it for this session. I hope you all enjoyed it. Until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side.